The story of the Ford Taunus begins against a haunting backdrop of post-war Germany, a time when the nation's cities lay in ruins, its people weary, and its industry shattered. The end of World War II left much of Europe devastated, and the German branch of the Ford Motor Company, known as Ford-Werke AG, located in Cologne, was no exception. The factory, like so many others, had been heavily damaged by bombing raids, and the once thriving automobile industry was in disarray. Yet even amid the wreckage, there was a quiet determination among Ford's engineers and workers to rebuild. Cars were more than machines. They symbolized progress, freedom, and a return to normal life. The Taunus name itself, borrowed from the scenic mountain range near Frankfurt, was chosen to reflect something distinctly German, something stable, enduring, and familiar in uncertain times. The origins of the Taunus actually predated the war, with the first model, the Ford Taunus G93A, introduced in 1939 as a compact, affordable family car for a growing middle class. Its design was practical and modest, with rounded fenders, a simple grille, and a small, efficient engine suited for the needs of ordinary families. It was not a car meant to impress with luxury, but one meant to provide reliability in daily life. However, just as the Taunus began to find its place in the market, the outbreak of war halted civilian car production. The Ford-Werke facilities were redirected toward producing military vehicles and equipment, and by the time the war ended in 1945, the company's infrastructure was nearly destroyed. In the aftermath, the German economy was crippled by shortages of fuel, steel, and labor, and few people could even dream of owning a new car. Yet Ford saw opportunity in this vacuum. They understood that once peace returned, people would need simple, dependable transportation more than ever. By 1948, Ford resumed operations in Cologne under Allied supervision, and the Taunus name was revived as part of the company's effort to rebuild not only its business, but also Germany's faith in modern industry. The early post-war Taunus models, such as the G73A, often referred to as the buckled Taunus because of its humped rear design, were born out of scarcity and ingenuity. With limited materials and outdated machinery, Ford's engineers had to rely on pre-war designs, modifying them wherever possible to suit the new realities of production. Despite these challenges, the car was a remarkable success. It offered a small four-cylinder engine that was easy to maintain, a sturdy chassis, and a reputation for rugged reliability that resonated deeply with customers who valued practicality over luxury. The Taunus wasn't fast or glamorous, but it represented something more meaningful: hope and self-sufficiency in a time of rebuilding. For ordinary Germans, owning a Taunus was more than just an economic decision. It was emotional. Roads that had been silent during the war now echoed once again with the hum of engines, and the Taunus became a symbol of progress in motion. It allowed families to reconnect with distant relatives, helped tradesmen transport goods, and gave workers new mobility in a slowly recovering economy. The simplicity of its design made it easy for local mechanics to repair, and Ford's growing network of service centers ensured that even small towns could access parts and maintenance. The Taunus became known for being dependable in all conditions, enduring rough post-war roads and scarce fuel supplies with stoic efficiency. It was a car that reflected the spirit of the people who drove it, resilient, pragmatic, and quietly determined. Ford's decision to continue using the Taunus name after the war was more than just a marketing choice. It was a deliberate effort to establish continuity between pre-war prosperity and post-war renewal. The company's management understood that familiarity bred trust, and in a time when many German consumers were skeptical of foreign companies, Ford managed to localize its image through the Taunus brand. While it was backed by American capital, the Taunus was engineered, built, and marketed by German for Germans. This balance between local identity and global expertise will become a defining feature of Ford's European operations for decades to come. By the early 1950s, the Taunus had established itself as one of the cornerstones of Germany's new automotive landscape, standing shoulder to shoulder with domestic brands like Opel and Volkswagen. In those early years, the Taunus did not yet represent style or innovation. It represented survival. It embodied the idea that progress could be rebuilt one car, one family, one road trip at a time. The lines of the car were simple and unpretentious, the materials often utilitarian, and yet there was something profoundly hopeful about its existence. For many post-war Germans, the sight of a Ford Taunus on the road was a reminder that life was slowly returning to normal, that the machinery of everyday life was beginning to move again. In this way, the first Taunus models became more than automobiles. They became artifacts of recovery and perseverance, a moving testament to the resilience of a nation and the determination of a company that refused to give up even in the darkest of times. As Germany transitioned from a hardship of the late 1940s into the promise of the 1950s, the country experienced one of the most remarkable economic turnarounds in modern history, the Wirtschaftswunder, or economic miracle. This period of rapid industrial recovery and modernization transformed German society, and with it, the Ford Taunus evolved from a symbol of survival into a symbol of success. The growing middle class, now earning stable incomes, desired cars that not only provided reliability, but also reflected their newfound prosperity. The post-war austerity years were giving way to optimism, and people wanted vehicles that expressed progress, modern design, and comfort. Ford, recognizing this cultural shift, began to refine the Taunus line into something that went beyond practicality. It became a family car infused with ambition, designed not just to get people from one place to another, but to make them proud of the journey. By the mid-1950s, Ford introduced the Taunus 12M and 15M, two models that marked a dramatic leap forward in both style and technology. These cars embodied the optimism of the era. Their bodies were sleeker, featuring gentle curves, elegant chrome accents, and bright two-tone paint schemes that stood in stark contrast to the utilitarian post-war vehicles of the previous decade. Ford's designers had drawn inspiration from American automobiles, which were admired in Europe for their bold, futuristic lines and confident proportions. Yet, the German engineers ensured that the Taunus retained its European sensibility, compact, efficient, and precise. This blending of American flair with German practicality became a defining trait of Ford's design language in Europe and set the Taunus apart from its competitors. Underneath the stylish exterior, the Taunus 12M was a technological statement. It was among the first German cars to adopt a monocoque construction, a unibody design that replaced the traditional body-on-frame structure. This innovation made the car lighter, stronger, and safer, giving it improved handling and better fuel economy. It was a significant engineering step that showed Ford's commitment to modernization. The 15M, a slightly larger, more powerful variant, catered to families seeking a bit more comfort and prestige. It featured a smoother engine, enhanced interiors, and improved suspension, qualities that positioned the Taunus as a serious competitor to Opel's Record and Volkswagen's emerging mid-range models. The Taunus quickly became a bestseller for Ford-Werke AG, winning over both critics and consumers. Germans appreciated its dependable nature, stylish looks, and easy maintenance. The car's presence on the Autobahn, in suburban driveways, and in bustling city centers became increasingly common, symbolizing the return of personal freedom and modern living. Ford's marketing reflected this sentiment, portraying the Taunus as a car for the new German family, a car that represented stability, ambition, and a bright future. It wasn't merely transportation. It was a statement of identity in a country rediscovering its confidence. As the 1960s dawned, Ford continued to refine and expand the Taunus lineup, introducing new generations that reflected the rapid pace of change in both society and technology. The Taunus P3, unveiled in 1960, was a striking departure from its predecessors. Known colloquially as the Bade One or Bathtub Taunus due to its smooth, rounded body, it was a bold experiment in design. The car featured clean, flowing lines and an almost minimalist aesthetic, a stark contrast to the excessive ornamentation of earlier models. It was modern, aerodynamic, and forward-thinking, a reflection of the jet age optimism sweeping through the Western world. Ford emphasized its innovation through slogans that highlighted its simplicity and elegance, capturing the imagination of a generation that was growing more design-conscious. Technological improvements continued as well. Ford introduced more efficient engines, improved braking systems, and better interior ergonomics. The company also expanded production and assembly operations across Europe, ensuring that the Taunus could reach a wider market with reduced costs. Planned in countries like Belgium and the Netherlands began producing Taunus models, while Ford's growing dealer network made ownership and servicing more accessible than ever. The The Taunus became a truly pan-European product, tailored to the varied demands of the continent's consumers while maintaining a unified brand identity. The 1960s were a golden era for the Taunus because it managed to capture the perfect balance between aspiration and accessibility. For the growing middle class, it offered refinement and comfort without arrogance. For businesses, it was a dependable fleet car that reflected professionalism. For families, it was a practical yet stylish companion for road trips, daily commutes, and everything in between. The Taunus had matured from its post-war roots into a line of vehicles that symbolized prosperity and progress, mirroring the transformation of Europe itself. Ford's success with the Taunus also stemmed from its understanding of the subtle, emotional connection people had with their cars. By infusing each new model with just enough sophistication and technological improvement to feel modern, while keeping prices within reach, Ford created a brand loyalty that few competitors could match. People trusted the Taunus because it evolved naturally with their lives. It was a car that grew up with its owners, adapting to their changing needs without losing its familiar character. By the late 1960s, the Taunus had firmly established itself as a cornerstone of Ford's European lineup. It was no longer just a symbol of recovery, but of achievement. The factories in Cologne were thriving, exports were booming, and the Taunus name carried weight across borders. Whether parked outside a West German family home, cruising the highways of France, or appearing in film and television, the Taunus represented a generation that had risen from hardship into a new age of confidence. Its design evolution reflected not just automotive progress, but the evolution of Europe itself. From a continent rebuilding its identity to one embracing the future with optimism and style. As the 1970s approached, Ford's European division found itself standing at a crossroads. The world of automotive design and manufacturing was changing rapidly, and Ford needed to unify its fragmented European operations to remain competitive. Up to that point, Ford's British and German branches had largely developed cars independently, with models like the Cortina dominating in the United Kingdom and the Taunus holding strong on the continent. This duplication of effort led to inefficiencies and brand confusion, as both cars occupied roughly the same market segment, but were built on different platforms and used separate engineering philosophies. The leadership at Ford of Europe realized that the company could no longer afford to operate as two separate entities if it wanted to compete with giants like Volkswagen and Opel, who had begun embracing more globalized and standardized production systems. Thus, the early 1970s became a period of strategic consolidation and innovation for Ford, and at the center of this transformation stood the Taunus. The creation of Ford of Europe in 1967 marked a turning point not just for the company, but for the Taunus nameplate itself. The goal was clear: to harmonize Ford's European models, streamline production, and establish a single engineering and design identity that could transcend national boundaries. This vision led to the development of the Taunus TC series, short for Taunus Cortina, a car that would bridge the gap between Ford's British and German divisions. The first model, launched in 1970, was known as the Taunus TC1 in continental Europe and as the Cortina MK3 in the UK. Although they bore different names, they were essentially the same car underneath. This collaboration represented a bold new experiment in cross-European engineering, a car designed to satisfy both British tastes for driving dynamics and German expectations for build quality and refinement. The 1970 Taunus TC was a revelation compared to its predecessors. It embraced a sleek, modern, and international design language that reflected Ford's new global ambitions. Gone were the soft, rounded lines of the 1960s. In their place stood sharp edges, clean surfaces, and more angular silhouette that echoed the modern architecture and industrial design trends of the decade. The Taunus had grown up. It looked more executive, more confident, and more attuned to the aesthetic of the modern professional. The car was offered in multiple body styles, including a practical four-door sedan, a sporty two-door coupe, and a versatile station wagon, appealing to a wide range of consumers. Beneath its body, Ford engineers had made significant advancements. The chassis was stiffer, the suspension more refined, and the engine lineup expanded to include a variety of options from economical four-cylinders to spirited V6 units, providing a balance of performance and efficiency. For Ford, the Taunus TC series was more than a new car. It was proof that collaboration across borders could yield a superior product. The British expertise in suspension tuning, combined with German precision in body engineering, gave the Taunus a unique character. It was solid and dependable, yet comfortable and easy to drive. Its interiors, especially in higher trims, began to rival those of more premium European sedans, featuring better materials, improved sound insulation, and thoughtful ergonomics. This made the car particularly appealing to middle-class families who wanted something that felt a step above the norm, without the price tag of a luxury vehicle. Ford's marketing cleverly positioned the Taunus as the smart choice for the modern European, a car that balanced elegance, practicality, and performance. The success of the first-generation Taunus TC gave Ford the confidence to expand its unified European strategy even further. By the time the Taunus TC2 debuted in 1976, Ford had refined the formula considerably. The new model was not just an update, it was a statement of intent. It featured a more aerodynamic profile, smoother surfaces, and a front end that embodied Ford's evolving corporate identity. The improvements weren't limited to aesthetics. Ford engineers focused on refining ride comfort, handling stability, and fuel efficiency, critical factors in the wake of the 1973 oil crisis, which had fundamentally altered consumer priorities. Buyers now cared more about economy and dependability than raw power, and the Taunus met this demand perfectly. Ford's factories across Europe were operating at full capacity, and the Taunus became one of the most widely distributed Ford models of the 1970s. Its appeal went beyond Germany. It found loyal followings in countries such as France, Spain, Italy, and even across Scandinavia. In some markets, particularly in the Netherlands and Belgium, the Taunus became synonymous with middle-class aspiration. The car's mechanical simplicity made it easy to service, and its availability of spare parts ensured that maintenance was affordable, an important factor that strengthened its reputation for reliability. Meanwhile, in the United Kingdom, its sibling, the Cortina, was achieving monumental sales success, often topping the charts as Britain's best-selling car. Although they carried different badges, the Taunus and Cortina together became the backbone of Ford's European dominance, with millions of units sold across the continent. The Taunus TC3, introduced in 1979, represented the final and most refined evolution of this trans-European collaboration. It was sleeker, quieter, and more polished than ever before, featuring design cues that hinted at the aerodynamic focus of the upcoming 1980s. The car was well equipped for its time, offering features like power steering, improved safety systems, and plush interiors that made it feel distinctly upscale compared to many of its competitors. It was also a commercial success, with Ford continuing to produce it in various configurations for different markets well into the early 1980s. However, beneath the surface, the automotive world was once again shifting, and the very qualities that had made the Taunus so successful, its traditional rear-wheel drive setup, conventional sedan body, and familiar engineering, were beginning to feel dated in a rapidly modernizing industry. Yet, during this decade, the Taunus achieved something few models could. It became a truly international car. In addition to its success across Europe, the Taunus platform found new life in overseas markets, including Argentina, where it was produced locally and became one of the most respected cars of its class. Its durability and strong construction made it ideal for the varying road conditions of Latin America, and its stylish European design gave it aspirational appeal. The global reach of the Taunus demonstrated Ford's ability to design a car that transcended cultural and geographic boundaries. It could be seen outside middle-class homes in Cologne, navigating London traffic, or cruising down the streets of Buenos Aires, all under the same familiar name. By the end of the 1970s, the Taunus stood as a triumph of Ford's European strategy, a car that unified two engineering traditions, appealed to millions of customers, and proved that a single, well-designed model could meet the diverse demands of the continent. It had evolved from a modest post-war sedan into a sophisticated, globally recognized vehicle. The Taunus wasn't just a car. It was a symbol of Ford's mastery of adaptation, a lesson in how collaboration, modernization, and an understanding of people's aspirations could transform an automobile into an enduring legacy. Though change was on the horizon and a new era of automotive design was about to begin, the Taunus had already secured its place in history as one of Ford's most important European creations, an engineering bridge that connected not just factories, but philosophies, cultures, and decades of progress. When the Ford Taunus reached Latin America in the mid-1970s, it found a new life far from the assembly lines of Cologne and Dagenham. In Argentina, a country that had long admired European engineering and design, the Taunus arrived at a time when the local automotive industry was searching for a new standard of quality and sophistication. The first locally built Ford Taunus rolled off the production line at the Pacheco plant near Buenos Aires in 1974, marking the beginning of a decade-long love affair between the Argentine public and this refined European sedan. At a glance, it carried the same DNA as the Taunus TC model from Europe, but its significance in South America extended well beyond that of a mere imported design. The Taunus became a symbol of attainable elegance, a car that brought a taste of European prestige to Latin streets while remaining practical enough for everyday use. Argentina in the 1970s was a complex landscape. The economy fluctuated between periods of optimism and hardship, and yet the country's car culture thrived. People cared deeply about their vehicles, not only as a mode of transportation, but as expressions of identity and pride. Local automakers, including Ford Argentina, understood this cultural connection and positioned the Taunus as a car that blended refinement, performance, and resilience. The Taunus fit seamlessly into this environment. Its body styles, a four-door sedan, a stylish two-door coupe, and the versatile station wagon, appealed to a broad spectrum of buyers. The sedan served professionals and families who desired a car that reflected respectability, while the coupe became the choice of enthusiasts who wanted something sleek, powerful, and slightly rebellious. The Taunus's build quality immediately distinguished it from many of its contemporaries. Argentine roads, often unpredictable and varied in surface, demanded cars that could withstand both city congestion and rugged countryside conditions. The Taunus proved up to the task. Its robust rear-wheel drive layout, solid suspension, and dependable powertrains, most notably the 2.0-liter and 2.3-liter inline-fours, gave it a perfect balance of durability and performance. It wasn't just about reliability, though. The car delivered a driving experience that was smoother and more refined than most of its rivals. The steering felt precise, the ride composed, and the cabin unusually quiet for its class. These attributes helped the Taunus earn a reputation as a car that combined European sophistication with South American toughness. The Taunus coupe quickly became a cultural icon in Argentina. Its long hood, fastback roofline, and muscular stance gave it an air of sportiness that appealed to a new generation of drivers. The car's proportions and understated elegance echoed the aesthetic of European grand tours, but at a fraction of the price. Many Argentine enthusiasts remember the Taunus coupe as a car that exuded confidence without pretense, a car equally at home on the coastal roads of Mar del Plata or parked outside a cafe in Buenos Aires. Its interior was equally impressive, featuring plush upholstery, well-arranged gauges, and a sense of craftsmanship that elevated it above the utilitarian sedans that filled the streets. For many middle-class Argentines, owning a Taunus coupe meant they had arrived. It was a statement of taste and discernment beyond Argentina. The Taunus also found smaller but loyal markets in countries like Chile, Uruguay, and Venezuela, where Ford maintained strong regional operations. Its European lineage lent it a certain cachet, setting it apart from the largely American-influenced cars that dominated Latin American roads. While competitors often emphasized raw size and power, the Taunus represented precision, balance, and refinement, qualities that appealed to those who valued intelligent engineering over extravagance. Its reputation for reliability made it a popular choice for professionals, government officials, and even taxi drivers who needed a dependable vehicle capable of enduring long distances and heavy use. Mechanics praised its accessibility and simplicity, with spare parts readily available thanks to Ford's expanding regional infrastructure. Meanwhile, in Europe, the Taunus continued to evolve alongside its British twin, the Cortina. Throughout the late 1970s, the model was updated with subtle but meaningful improvements, better sound insulation, more efficient engines, and refined styling cues that aligned with Ford's global design vision. The Taunus name had by now become deeply entrenched in Ford's European lineup, a familiar and trusted badge that stood for practical dependability with a touch of class. Families across Germany, the Netherlands, and Scandinavia saw the Taunus as a sensible choice, a car that could handle everything from long Autobahn drives to weekend getaways without complaint. In company fleets, It was a preferred option for executives who wanted understated professionalism rather than ostentatious luxury. In both Europe and South America, the Taunus had achieved something rare. It transcended class boundaries. It was a car that could fit seamlessly into different lifestyles and economies, equally at ease being driven by a businessman in Cologne or a young family in Buenos Aires. The same combination of comfort, reliability, and restrained style that had defined its European success now translated perfectly to markets half a world away. It demonstrated Ford's mastery at creating a truly global vehicle, one that could adapt to local tastes while retaining its core identity. By the late 1970s, the Taunus had become more than just a product. It was a part of everyday life. It appeared in films, advertisements, and local events, often serving as a quiet backdrop to moment of progress and optimism. Its design, while conservative by the flamboyant standards of the decade, carried a timeless appeal that aged gracefully. People admired the Taunus not for being radical or flashy, but for being trustworthy and refined. It was the kind of car that inspired long-term loyalty rather than fleeting excitement. Many owners held on to their Taunus for years, sometimes passing it down through generations, a testament to the car's enduring mechanical integrity and sentimental value. In Argentina, production continued well into the 1980s. Even as global trends began to shift, the car's presence on the streets became a familiar and comforting sight, representing an era when craftsmanship and practicality still defined automotive design. It offered drivers a feeling of owning something both international and local, a Ford that belonged as much to Argentina as it did to Germany. In Europe, the final years of the Taunus coincided with growing anticipation for Ford's next great innovation, but the affection people held for the Taunus never faded. Whether seen gliding along the Rhine or rumbling through the avenues of Buenos Aires, it stood as a symbol of reliability and class, a car that had quietly become a cornerstone of Ford's global identity. By the time the Taunus approached the end of its production run, its global footprint had cemented it as one of Ford's most successful and adaptable nameplates. From Cologne to Cordoba, from family homes to corporate garages, it carried the same message of endurance, refinement, and accessibility. It was not just a European car that found success abroad. It was a global machine that captured the spirit of progress wherever it went. In every market it touched, the Ford Taunus left behind not just sales figures, but stories, memories, and a legacy that would linger long after its final model rolled off the assembly line. By the dawn of the 1980s, the automotive world had changed dramatically, and with it, the fate of the Ford Taunus was being quietly rewritten. What had once been a symbol of European refinement and reliability was now facing the full force of an industry hurtling toward the future. The 1970s have been a decade of evolution, but the 1980s demanded revolution. Aerodynamics, fuel efficiency, and futuristic design have become the new benchmarks of progress, and the once conservative Taunus, despite its lasting appeal, was beginning to show its age. Its traditional boxy silhouette, rear-wheel drive layout, and familiar mechanical setup were increasingly out of step with the forward-looking, technology-driven ethos of the era. Consumer expectations were shifting rapidly. People wanted cars that looked and felt like they belonged to the new decade, not the one before it. For Ford, this realization led to one of the boldest and most controversial decisions in its European history: the retirement of the Taunus name and the introduction of an entirely new model that would take its place, the Ford Sierra. Internally, Ford engineers and designers had known for years that the Taunus, as solid and successful as it was, had reached the limits of its evolutionary potential. The company could no longer rely on incremental updates to keep it competitive against newer rivals such as the Opel Ascona, Peugeot 505, and Volkswagen Passat, all of which embraced more modern engineering philosophies and aerodynamic efficiency. Global oil crises had fundamentally altered the priorities of both automakers and consumers. Efficiency dragged coefficients, and weight reduction became buzzword that guided every new project. In this context, the Taunus, with its traditional three-box design and aging architecture, represented an era that was ending. Ford of Europe needed something radical, something that would redefine its image and propel the company into the future. That answer came in the form of the Ford Sierra, a car so futuristic that it shocked nearly everyone when it debuted in 1982. The Sierra was designed to be a complete departure from everything the Taunus represented. Where the Taunus was angular and upright, The Sierra was smooth and aerodynamic, its body shaped in wind tunnels to reduce drag. Its silhouette was unlike anything Ford had ever produced for the European market, a bold, flowing design with a sloping nose and fastback rear that made it look more like a concept car than a production model. The Sierra's design was polarizing. It was either admired for its innovation or dismissed as too radical. The transition from the Taunus to the Sierra was more than just the introduction of a new model. It was a death of familiarity. Ford was not simply updating a car. It was reinventing its entire design philosophy, and in doing so, it had to let go of a name that had carried it for nearly 4 decades. For longtime Taunus owners, this transition felt bittersweet. The Taunus had become a trusted member of countless European families, a name synonymous with dependability and modest sophistication. It had served as the backbone of Ford's lineup since the 1950s, and its reputation for durability meant that even older models were still common sights on the roads of Germany, Spain, and the Netherlands. The Sierra, with its space-age aesthetics, seemed like an alien intruder. Many customers were hesitant to embrace such a dramatic departure from what they knew, leading to initial skepticism in showrooms. Ford dealers in Germany reported that traditional Taunus buyers were unsure of the Sierra's new look, some even calling it too modern or too experimental. The Taunus had represented familiarity and trust, qualities that the futuristic Sierra struggled to convey in its early days. Yet Ford's gamble was not without reason. The Taunus, despite its continued popularity, had become increasingly difficult to update. Its rear-wheel drive platform, though reliable, was less efficient and less space-conscious than the emerging front-wheel drive systems that competitors were adopting. New safety regulations and stricter emission standards made the old architecture harder to justify. To remain competitive, Ford needed a fresh start, and that meant embracing change, even if it meant alienating a portion of its loyal customer base. The Sierra's radical aerodynamics, characterized by its jelly mold shape, weren't just for show. They offered tangible benefits in fuel economy and performance. Ford's engineers had tested prototypes in wind tunnels for thousands of hours, aiming for a drag coefficient of just 0.34, an impressive figure at the time. Beneath the skin, the Sierra shared some mechanical components with the outgoing Taunus, but its spirit was entirely new, a symbol of efficiency and modernity. As production of the Taunus wound down in 1982, there was a quiet sense of farewell across Ford's European facilities. The Cologne plant, which had been the heart of Taunus production for decades, saw its final units roll off the line with little fanfare. But those who worked on them understood the significance of the moment. The Taunus had been more than just a car. It had been the foundation of Ford's post-war rebirth in Germany. It had carried the company through economic miracles, oil crises, and market shifts, all while earning the trust of millions. Its departure marked the end of an era in which cars were defined by mechanical honesty and practical design, rather than wind tunnel sculpting and computerized engineering. For Ford's workers and engineers, it was the closing chapter of a story that had defined their professional lives. In its final years, the Taunus remained as reliable and dignified as ever. Its last models, particularly the TC3 generation, offered subtle refinements that made them feel modern without betraying their heritage. Ford had improved interior comfort, added more efficient engines, and refined the suspension to deliver smoother rides. Even as it approached the end, the Taunus carried itself with quiet confidence, as if aware that its time was up but determined to leave gracefully. Many of the last Taunus models found homes with loyal Ford customers who wanted one final piece of a lineage they had grown up with. These cars would go on to serve faithfully for years, their owners proudly maintaining them as symbols of the bygone age of motoring. When the Sierra officially replaced the Taunus, Ford was careful to emphasize continuity and spirit, even if everything else had changed. The Sierra was positioned as a natural successor, faster, sleeker, and more efficient. But the emotional connection to the Taunus name lingered. For many Europeans, the disappearance of the Taunus badge from showrooms felt strangely personal. It wasn't just the end of the car. It was the end of familiarity, of the simple, reliable automobile that had defined an entire generation. The Taunus had been the car of the working man, the family breadwinner, the dependable companion that asked for little and gave so much in return. Its passing symbolized the industry's broader shift toward modernity and global standardization. where emotional attachments to specific regional models gave way to unified global lineups. Despite the Sierra's eventual success, it would go on to become one of Ford's most significant European cars. The Taunus never truly faded from public consciousness. Its name continued to resonate among enthusiast mechanics and collectors who appreciated its mechanical purity and timeless simplicity. In many parts of Europe, Taunus owners kept their cars running for decades after production ceased, treating them as loyal old friends rather than outdated machines. Even Ford itself acknowledged the Taunus's importance in shaping its European identity. It paved the way for everything that followed. The end of its production wasn't a failure, but a natural evolution, the inevitable conclusion of a story that had begun in the rubble of post-war Germany and culminated in a world poised for a technological revolution. The final years of the Ford Taunus reflected both the beauty and the melancholy of progress. It had served its purpose with dignity, bridging generations, economies, and continents. When the last Taunus left the Cologne assembly line, it carried with it 40 years of history, decades of human ambition, craftsmanship, and resilience. Though the Sierra took its place in the spotlight, the Taunus remained in the hearts of those who had driven it, repaired it, or built it. It was more than just a car that had died. It was a chapter in Ford's story that would forever define the brand's European spirit. One built not on extravagance or innovation alone, but on dependability, humility, and trust. Even decades after production lines fell silent, the Ford Taunus continues to live on, not merely as a relic of the past, but as a cherished symbol of an era when cars were built with sincerity, purpose, and personality. Time has a curious way of transforming the ordinary into the extraordinary, and in the case of the Taunus, what was once a common sight on European and South American roads has now become a treasured classic, celebrated by enthusiasts who understand that its story is intertwined with the very fabric of post-war automotive history. Across Germany, Argentina, and other corners of the world where the Taunus once reigned supreme, dedicated owners still gather to preserve its legacy, restoring these machines with the same care and pride that Ford's engineers once poured into them. These cars, often parked lovingly in garages or displayed at vintage car meets, stand as tangible reminders of a simpler age, a time when design and engineering worked in harmony to serve human needs rather than market trends. In Germany, where the Taunus was born, classic car enthusiasts regard it as a cornerstone of Ford's identity and a testament to the resilience of a nation that rebuilt itself from the ashes of war. Clubs devoted to the Taunus thrive, with members meticulously maintaining models that span every generation, from the humble post-war G73A buckled Taunus to the sleek, later TC coupes of the late 1970s. At classic car gatherings in places like Cologne, Stuttgart, and Munich, Taunus owners speak of their vehicles not merely as machines, but as family members, faithful companions that carried them through decades of life's journeys. Each car bears its own story, from a father who taught his son to drive in a Taunus 12M to the mechanic who remembers learning his trade by tuning the car's simple yet dependable engine. The Taunus is celebrated for its humanity. It's approachable, understandable, and unpretentious. There is no intimidation in its design, no complexity that alienates the everyday driver. It reflects an era when automobiles were extensions of their owners, not distant technological marvels. In Argentina, the legacy burns even brighter. There, the Taunus achieved near-mythic status, remembered as one of the finest cars ever produced locally. Decades after the last Argentine Taunus rolled off the production line in 1984, it remains a beloved classic, revered by collectors who see it as an emblem of national automotive craftsmanship. Argentine car clubs, such as the Club Taunus Argentina, keep the spirit alive through exhibitions, restoration workshops, and national meets that bring together generations of enthusiasts. The cars themselves, often preserved in stunning condition, still roam the streets, testament to both their build quality and the devotion of their owners. The coupe models, in particular, have become icons of retro coolness, often featured in films, commercials, and nostalgic social media tributes that celebrate the elegance of 1970s design. Younger enthusiasts who never experienced the Taunus era firsthand are drawn to it precisely because it represents something modern cars rarely offer: authenticity. Its analog simplicity, mechanical purity, and unmistakable charm evoke a longing for a time when driving was about feel, sound, and connection rather than screens and software. Collectors and restorers often speak of the Taunus as a joy to work on. Its mechanical layout is straightforward, its components robust, and its design logical, a reflection of an engineering philosophy that prioritized reliability over complication. Spare parts, once thought to be scarce, have found new life through reproduction networks and enthusiast communities that trade components across borders. Online forums and restoration channels have become digital archives of shared wisdom, where owners exchange advice on everything from carburetor tuning to paint codes. There is a sense of fraternity within the Taunus community, a recognition that keeping these cars alive is not merely a hobby but a responsibility, a way to honor the past and ensure that its story continues to inspire future generations. The car has transcended its original purpose, evolving from transportation into heritage, from product into cultural memory. In Europe, the Taunus's legacy is also deeply felt in Ford's later successes. The Sierra, Mondeo, and later models all carry the DNA of the Taunus. Its balance between practicality and sophistication, its focus on driver comfort, and its intuitive design philosophy. When Ford of Europe transitioned into the modern era, it did so on the foundation that the Taunus had built. Even in Ford's global lineup today, echoes of the Taunus can be seen in the way the company blends efficiency with character, creating vehicles that appeal to both the heart and the head. The Taunus taught Ford an invaluable lesson. That success in Europe depended not on imposing an American identity, but on understanding the continent's diversity and tailoring cars to its people. That lesson continues to shape the company's approach to design and manufacturing, ensuring that the Taunus's influence endures even in the digital age. But beyond its corporate legacy, the Taunus's endurance lies in emotion, in the quiet nostalgia it evokes for those who remember it as a part of their daily lives. For millions of people, it was a car of first loves, family vacations, and long Sunday drives through winding countryside roads. It was a car that waited faithfully in front of modest homes and office parking lots, a steady companion through decades of social and economic change. To drive a Taunus today is to step back into a world where time moves slower, where the connection between driver and machine was immediate and unfiltered. The feel of the gear lever, the mechanical clatter of the engine, the solid click of the doors, these sensations remind enthusiasts of a world where cars had personalities and imperfections, and where those imperfections were part of their charm. In museums, garages, and roadside gatherings, the Taunus continues to find admirers who never tire of telling its story. It is a story of survival and reinvention, of how a modest family car became a transcontinental legend. It's a story of how Ford, in the aftermath of war, built not just an automobile, but a symbol of renewal. And though its name no longer appears in showrooms, its spirit lingers in every car that follows its philosophy, vehicles that strive to balance progress with practicality, innovation with humanity. The Taunus remains a reminder that greatness in automotive history isn't measured solely by speed, power, or price, but by connection, the deep, enduring bond between a car and the people who build, drive, and remember it. Even today, when electric cars glide silently through cities and artificial intelligence manages the tasks once reserved for human intuition, the Taunus stands as a counterpoint to modern excess, a humble machine that speaks of craftsmanship, reliability, and human ingenuity. It reminds us an era when engineering was mechanical poetry, when form and function were guided by touch rather than touchscreen. The Ford Taunus may have disappeared from production lines, but it has never vanished in the collective memory of those who appreciate what it represented. It is not simply a car that lived and died. It is a spirit that continues to resonate, a timeless reflection of the values that once defined Ford's European soul: endurance, accessibility, and the quiet beauty of dependability. The Taunus endures not in name, but in feeling, an eternal companion from a gentler, more genuine age of motoring.